Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for the last of our three-part series on ATSU resources for course and teaching evaluation. I'm Sue McDaniel, and I've been an instructional designer for the College of Graduate Health Studies for almost 15 years. I absolutely love working with faculty who want to develop great courses for our students. This is the coolest job I've ever had. So my co-presenters are Quincy Conley and Jay Rozema from the Teaching and Learning Center. We're also joined by Julie Spear, Erin French, and Brenda Jackson from the TLC. Together, we want to provide you with support and resources to continually improve your courses and teaching. Whether you're teaching in a traditional classroom, an online environment, or somewhere in between, you've landed in the right spot. If you haven't had a chance to attend our previous sessions, or even if you have and you'd like to remind yourself of the things we've covered so far, jump on over to the TLC's YouTube channel. I think somebody might be able to put the link in the chat for us and check out the previous sessions. So in the previous sessions, we've discussed why evaluating your course is important, best practices for conducting student evaluations, and given you a glimpse into evaluating course design using the Quality Matters rubric. Today, we're going to bring this topic full circle by showing you some of the resources available to you here at ATSU to conduct these evaluations. Throughout today's session, I welcome you to ask questions, share thoughts, or provide answers by unmuting or using the chat at any time. I want to hear from you and make this session interactive. One of the other things you should know about me is that I'm not just an instructional designer, and I hate that "just" part in there, but I also teach a graduate level writing course for students in the master's and doctoral health sciences and health administration programs. So I've been on both sides of the fence, so to speak, and nearly every term I try something new. I also got my master's degree at a fully online program. So I've been in all the roles. So how do you know? Let's get back to the fundamental question. How do you know your teaching works? We've asked this question before in earlier presentations in the series, but I'd like to know what you think. So will you take a minute to add it to the chat, or you can come off mute if you'd like?
Based on the student surveys, for example.
Okay. I always like reading those.
I would add to that students give feedback throughout the term as well. And I also look at how they're doing. If all of my students are trending downward on a particular assessment, that tells me my teaching method may not be working. So, it's not just about them, but if I see a trend in performance downward for everyone, then it may be something I'm doing.
Okay.
By assessments results.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in?
I like what Kelsey said in the chat, that watching our students teach and interact with one another. If they can teach someone else, then they've got it.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, I know that we all need to remind ourselves of some of these things to get us through the times when things are a little bit more challenging. I think looking at our courses and our teaching methods regularly can help provide these types of experiences to more of our students. For me, it doesn't always happen right away. Just yesterday, though, and this was so cool, I received a text message from a former student from fall of 2023 who let me know that she had to create an assignment for a current course that's very similar to one she did in my course, and now she feels completely prepared to tackle it. So that was such a great moment for me. And I've also had the honor of being mentioned in the acknowledgments of a former student's doctoral research project, which has since been published. That was also super cool. And those are the big moments. But sometimes those teaching moments happen when a student finally figures out how to format a reference list or understand the reason that they've been completing these formative assessments that we have them do. When they get to the big one, the summative assessment, they go, oh, now I understand. So, and I love those aha moments. So for today's session, we're going to help you identify resources to help you evaluate your course and your teaching. And I once heard a presenter say, and I'm paraphrasing here, we ask our students to change every day. Shouldn't we be willing to do the same? And as educators, we should be the embodiment of lifelong learning, showing our students that continual growth and change is a good thing. We have a lot of great people here at ATSU, primarily in the Teaching and Learning Center, who are ready, willing, and able to help you. Just smile big, Quincy. My goal for today is to ensure that you walk away with some actionable strategies to help you evaluate your courses and your teaching skills. And we'll look at resources outside of ATSU, as well as resources within ATSU that you can use. So I'm going to start with the method that I'm most familiar with, which is Quality Matters. We talked a bit about QM in our last session, and just brief synopsis here. QM is a nonprofit quality assurance organization that uses a set of research-backed standards to ensure course quality. It was originally started to ensure online course quality, but it has since expanded to include hybrid and synchronous courses as well. And because ATSU is a member of Quality Matters, that allows us to use the rubric, which is now in its 7th iteration. We talked about it last time. This is a proprietary document, but anyone from ATSU can sign up for a QM account and have access to the rubric to do a self-review of your own course. One of our participants in the last session helped me create a couple of documents that will walk you through the steps of signing up for a QM account and the steps of creating your own self-review of your course using the QM rubric. And Quincy, those documents are now on the TLC Google Drive, correct? So hopefully, I'm not seeing the chat because I can only handle so much at one time, but I'm hopeful that there's a link to that going in the chat.
I just put it in the chat for everyone.
You are the best. Thank you so much. So Quality Matters also offers a free Elements of Quality Matters course to anybody wanting to know more about the organization and the commitment to course quality. That course is available at the link on this slide. It's also available near the bottom of the qualitymatters.org homepage. So you can take that at any time. They use Canvas to deliver that course, and it's a free Canvas shell, so you don't have to have a membership, I don't believe. If you do, let me know. We'll get you signed up for one. Okay. So in addition to that free course, QM offers both fee and free professional development. Look under the Professional Development tab of the QM homepage. The flagship course, which is Applying the Quality Matters rubric, explores the underlying principles behind the rubric and the elements of the QM quality assurance process. This course is required for those who want to become reviewers for courses for other institutions. By the way, QM loves its acronyms. This course in particular is referred often to as APPQMR, and you'll find many of the other courses referred to by their acronyms as well. Some of those other courses include designing online or hybrid courses, improving online or hybrid courses, teaching online, universal design for learning, specific standards such as addressing accessibility, which is General Standard 8 in the rubric, by the way. And many of those courses, again, do require a fee. However, QM offers free monthly webinars on a variety of topics, and you can find those by selecting free webinars. February session included information on the new ADA ruling for websites and mobile apps from the Department of Justice. One scheduled later this month will talk about a course review process managed by the University of Louisiana Lafayette. Say that fast 3 times. And April's is on using data for continuous improvement, which I think would be kind of interesting and kind of meshes with our topics here. QM also provides opportunities to help your peers as a reviewer of their courses. I've been a certified peer reviewer for several years and have gotten the opportunity to provide reviews to a couple other schools. This has been a really interesting experience and has given me a glimpse into how other schools meet the standards in different ways. While this might be a bit farther down the road for some of you, I want you to be aware of it in case you're interested. If you'd like to have your course reviewed formally or informally, you can contact me or Jay, and we can help you get started. There are costs associated with a formal QM review, but we can help you do an informal review at no cost. Okay. So the ATSU Teaching and Learning Center, here's their homepage. It's your hub for all things related to, well, teaching and learning, right? So the TLC offers several options for learning and teaching support services. You can check out the TLC YouTube channel to learn at your own pace. And I love the TLC YouTube channel. The last time I checked, there were 85 videos on the channel, and that number is increasing regularly. It will increase with this recording, probably going up later today. Or you can work with members of the TLC who can help with one-on-one consultations and teaching observations. And I'm not sure, can one of you explain the faculty learning communities? Oh my gosh, the wind here.
That wasn't the wind, that was me trying to come off mute, clicking around. Yeah, faculty learning communities, it's an informal and can be formal offering from the TLC. Oftentimes, we see groups or individuals at different parts of the university system that don't have direct ability to communicate because they're in their respective corners. So the TLC will often broker connections that can lead into things like what we're doing here, right? Having a great conversation about the resources and the impact and the value of something like Quality Matters. We try to keep an eye out for you all and make those connections. And FLCs was really hot in the last 10, 20 years. There's been a lot of research and a lot of funding, national and federal funding offered to try to facilitate those things because of the value that people are seeing, universities, educational institutions are seeing as a result. That way you all say, hey, Quincy, hey, TLC, hey, Julie, all the team here, and say, hey, we have an interest in talking about Course of Owls. That's how we're here today. Tabitha and a couple other of you have reached out and made comments directly to Course of Owl or QM directly or indirectly. And here we are. All right, we heard you, and now we're bringing it together. So informally, this is the product. Formally, we have done things to bring people together as well. And then there's some formatting that we can help you with as well. We can help facilitate. But thanks for that opportunity, Sue. Any questions about FLCs? Anybody heard of the term before? Hey, Alan, few of you? Okay.
Awesome. I think that would be fun. I would love talking with people about what you're doing and what we could all do better and what you could help me with. So yeah, that would be an awesome opportunity. So, all right, if you could benefit from a more structured and classroom-like setting, you might consider some of the TLC's courses. These courses, combined with some additional activities, can qualify you for the TLC's Level Up Teaching Certificate. Yay! I want to interject here that I highly, I can't sing the praises of this enough. I recommend the Course Design Institute or its asynchronous sibling, the ACDI. I've been an instructional designer for nearly 20 years, and the TLC staff's feedback during this course has helped me look at what I do every day through a different lens, and I really, really appreciate that. And I will keep singing those praises to anybody who will listen. The TLC also has a lot of resources available that I would strongly recommend you explore the website and then reach out to Quincy, Jay, Julie, or Aaron, or Brenda and see how they can best help you meet your teaching goals. These folks are awesome. They live and breathe helping you. And they're a great resource, so you may as well take advantage of them. So, what do you do now? So here's your call to action. I'm really a fast speaker. I thought that this would take longer. Look at the feedback you've already gotten from the students And, the student evals, like we talked about in our first session, outside feedback from an informal QM review, a teaching observation, or maybe just having a peer look at your course. How can you align your processes and your course with your teaching goals and the needs of your students? Maybe it's time to refine your questions, maybe explore some new tools. There's always room for some growth, right? Seek help from your peers or the TLC. Getting a fresh perspective, whether it's from a video you watched, a class you took, a peer who's observed your teaching, all of that can breathe new life into your work. You're already doing good work, so look for opportunities to be even better for your students. This is my favorite. Try one new idea. You don't have to overhaul your entire course. Think about doing just one small thing to improve your course content, an assessment method, or even a plan for interacting with your students. A few small changes made incrementally over time can add up to a big benefit. And then maybe set some specific goals for improvement. Use the feedback from course evaluations to set some actionable goals for your teaching, whether it's adjusting your course materials, improving student engagement. Having specific goals will help you track your progress and improve your course for future students. And engage your students. If you encourage them to participate by communicating how valuable their feedback is to you, you will find that they're more willing to provide that feedback. I encourage you to start applying these best practices right away and continue to explore ways to enhance your teaching. We should be in that cycle of continuous improvement all the time, right? That's what we want for our students. We want them to continually be growing and improving. So let's see if we can do that too. I love this. Now we're going to see this again, but I love this quote that Quincy used, or really was supposed to use, until he ran a little short of time, because he doesn't talk as fast as I do in the first session. And it was, there it is. We are only as good as the feedback we are willing to take. I think that this phrase emphasizes the importance of soliciting constructive criticism and using it for growth and improvement. It suggests our ability to learn, develop, and enhance our skills is directly linked to how open we are to accepting and acting on that feedback.
Sue, you brought up something. You said the word soliciting feedback, and I love that, because as you were talking, I was thinking, I don't know that I do a good enough job of giving my students permission. We always have the end of course surveys, but usually, having been a student myself, I go, yeah, click the buttons and fill it out. But I teach a course called Instructional Design and Program Planning, and one of this module in particular, in Module 9, we're talking about quality matters. And one of the things I'm able to do is ask my students, give them permission to critique me, to critique the course. And I do think they're way more willing to speak up and tell you what's working in the course, what's not working in the course, what could you do differently, what did you do that they liked, if you give them that permission instead of just waiting on the course eval. So I just wanted to throw that up.
I think that's excellent advice. I think to follow up on that, maybe if we're asking for that feedback sooner in the term, CGHS does a mid-course evaluation during week 4, and then the instructor gets the results of that in week 5. But maybe coming back to that during week 5, after you've got that information from the students, and saying, I hear you, and this is what I'm going to do to change. And letting them know that that feedback is being taken seriously and you're using it to improve. Thanks, Alfredo. Saw that thumbs up. Does anybody else?
Can I tag a question on there? This is Tabitha.
Absolutely.
Is there a resource that has a good description for students of what is appropriate and professional constructive feedback versus just inappropriate language sometimes that comes across in the
Mm,
feedback. Um, and I don't want to sound demeaning when I'm explaining it to them, but either in writing or verbally, I want to explain to them, we're doing this survey, whether it's halfway through my course or even the course evaluations at the end. And we expect them to not be spiteful, harassing, harsh, discriminatory words that are used, and to be professional at a healthcare graduate doctoral level type of interaction. And how do you teach students to do that? And I feel, again, generationally or age-wise, it's gotten worse over the years, and I ha I need maybe some guidance on how to manage that.
Good question.
we talked about this heavily in first session, Tabitha. This is a really, yeah, it's an important question that you're asking. As far as resources, uh, I don't personally know of anything specific that I could give to you at this moment that would show that you could get to students. But I think we could create it, right? I think we could create it and just have that available to them when they go into course evals. But I have to beg the question of like, how did we get here? Um, is it the case that they show up at the last day of class, right? They do the thing, and then they get the course evals, and now this is the outpouring. This is what's happening. Because I'm wondering if we can get out front on it without an example at that moment. If we do things like it's in the chat and has come up that week 4 is it in the syllabus that they're going to have a chance multiple times to communicate what's going on in their mind and in their world. I wonder if that, Tabitha, do you think that would have any traction, or is
I
this
I
already happening?
I do, and I think many of my faculty and other across the school are implementing some of those earlier
Oh,
check-ins in
good.
multiple ways. Um, Sometimes as simple as, again, like the muddiest point type of ideas, but a mid-course evaluation or feedback. And I do think that that will help. And I like the idea of if students see the response and the follow-up to that, because when it's end of course eval, they don't get to see that anything that they said was taken to heart and fixed really unless they talk to the
Yeah,
next class of students and
yeah.
figure out if something stayed the same or changed. And the place where I am seeing it is the end of course evals. And historically, I don't think we've done as much of the mid course and ongoing dialogue with the students as we're trying to do now. It's not Those course evals are not done at the very end. They're done like 80 to 90% through the course. So it shouldn't be based on what the students thought about the final exam. It's before the student knows their grade, but most of the time they can predict what their grade is going to be. And it does seem like it's the last minute asking them for feedback. And so they just sort of, I think, purge sometimes.
Hmm.
And that purging is not always appropriate. Again, professional interaction language.
Sure. So there's dimensions to this, and I'm sorry that's happening to you. You're not alone, unfortunately. But I wonder, I wonder out loud with you of what is the instigation of that language, right? That it's not constructive. Let's just try to be polite here. So what is going on? Is it there's some need, there's a learning need that's not being addressed, and is it just a matter of communication, or do they come into the program with this type of stuff, and it's showing up when they're already accepted into the program? I'm just curious because that could direct how you go about solving this, or addressing it. I shouldn't say solve it.
And sorry to take up more time on it, but I do think it's
Yeah.
multidimensional, that
Okay.
some portion of it, like I mentioned, generationally over the years, I think there is more of a use of technology, be it chat and text
Mm,
and Facebook postings and some anonymity sometimes in certain things. And we actually removed some of the language about the course evaluations being anonymous, because we used to say they were anonymous.
mm,
Technically, IP addresses can always be tracked. We've just never done it. And I think that sometimes that anonymity gave them the feeling of invincibility, that they could say what they wanted to, however they wanted to, and nobody would ever come back on them. Um, I also think that sometimes there can be an underlying issue or gap or something in the course or the design of the course that needs to be met. unfortunately, if it's not presented in a constructive way and it's presented in a very, again, harassing, divisive way, I think that the gist of the point can be lost. And then it's
Of
hard for a
course.
faculty member to focus on the pearl of knowledge in there of I really do need to work on the design or the alignment or the multiple types of assessments. They get distracted by the, again, anger, whatever the wording is, that doesn't come across in a constructive critique.
Oh, yeah, and that's the worst, right? Because you want to help, we want to help, and then it's really hard. Like Sue said at the top, it's a moment to open your course of house. I don't care who you are. Like it takes some strength, some Pepsi. It takes something to sit down and to do that, to be vulnerable, to do that, and especially when this is a pattern. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine the courage it takes.
Yeah. And faculty understand that you can't please everybody all the time, and not everybody's
Sure.
going to like your style on everything, and somebody's not going to like your content or the speed at which you speak. I mean, there's always those things, and we always take that with a grain of salt and still try to find that pearl in there, or the pearls. But I do like your idea of maybe designing some module or content just to help our learners learn how to help us by giving us valuable constructive feedback, because we do care and we do want to make our courses better, and maybe to do some interaction with them, and someday they may be the teacher or the
Mhm.
supervisor in a clinic, and maybe they're getting feedback and they should learn it from both sides.
Some reverse psychology. I
Yeah.
love that. And I see other folks want to win. That first session is a good resource. I think you're doing a lot of these things. It's about getting buy-in at the beginning. I think the syllabus is a great opportunity at the beginning to say you're going to have an opportunity throughout the class to let us know how it's going. You are you are responsible for your own learning experience. Ask for help in those ways. Check in, muddiest points, these type of things. But one of my favorite things that might be an opportunity, Kevin, you might already be doing these things, is letting them know that they are seen and heard. Sue Thomas had mentioned this. Julie, Aaron, and Jay just did a fantastic job of this in the Course Design Institute that Sue just raved about. They send an email, thanks for the feedback. Here's what we are going to do about those things. And I just have the feeling that will kind of alleviate some of this stuff. Not all, clearly, social media, these things, these bad habits. But Susan and Julie, I want to get you to weigh in here as well. Maybe I stole some thunder. Sorry, Julie.
No, not at all. No, I was just going to validate that I think one of the articles we're using in the Course Design Institute right now has a really important point that learning to both give and receive feedback is a practiced learned skill. Right? So not only, I think, do we have an opportunity to help students think about how they give us feedback and how they receive feedback from us, but also how they give feedback to each other. And I think, Tabitha, that's sort of what you're mentioning, and Quincy too, is like at some point they're going to have to give feedback to someone, whether that's a colleague, whether that's a patient or a client, right? And so helping them practice those skills. And one of the strategies I think can be really helpful for that is including self-evaluation or self-reflection as part of the feedback process. So when students have to be accountable for also looking at their own learning or their own outcomes, then they have an opportunity to say, okay, how do I phrase this, right? What does this look like? How can I practice this self-reflection and the introspection? And then how do I word that? How am I nice to myself, kind and respectful to my own self, my own learning? But then how can I give that constructively to someone else as well? So I think maybe involving them in that process can be helpful. There's different methods out there, Pendleton and Ask, Tell, Ask, and different methods out there for giving feedback. But I think when we can build that intentionality into our practice and our process of teaching, then when it comes to these evaluations, not only can they give us better feedback, they can give their peers better feedback in a peer review process. They can ask better questions, or be more present, maybe in a group presentation, right, where they're going to ask questions from other colleagues, and give helpful feedback that's constructive. And that also means not just saying everything was great, right? How often do we see that from our students of their, respond to someone's discussion board post, or evaluate your peer on this thing. Oh, everything was fantastic. okay, well, that's not really helpful for the peer either, right? Because they're not benefiting from ideas and ways that they can improve. So just to share that as ways that maybe we can help students practice this as it benefits us, but also how it can benefit them and involving them in the feedback process.
To tie a little bit into what Julie just said too, you know, I work in the College of Graduate Health Studies, so we're in a unique position as online courses with working professionals, that one of the ways we can gauge how they're doing is we can put in reflective journal assignments where we ask, what's going well? What are you struggling with? What do you need help with? And that can help us make those connections with those students that we can't see face to face. And that kind of opens a door for us to meet with them, you know, before the end of the term when they're frustrated or, you know, they're just giving all of the feedback at once. But another thing that Tabitha said that, and maybe this is, I don't want to say it's unique to online, but certainly we feel it, and I'm really curious about the other schools. There's a marked shift in the culture of education from more of learning as a privilege to I'm a consumer, and if you don't give me what I want, I'll go somewhere else kind of feel. And so I feel some of that in the feedback sometimes. And I'm assuming the same thing can be said for I see shaking heads. I think it can be said even in a residential program I work with. But there's certainly from the time I went to college where learning was a privilege for my undergrad back in the 80s. You know, times have changed. There's a shift in culture to more of a, hey, this isn't what I signed up for. You know, you better give me what I want kind of a thing. And so I think that's a very important point that Tabitha brings up, that we do need to teach our students how to provide feedback and have those conversations. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
And
A
I think there's
valuable 2 cents it was.
I was going to say, I think there's pros and cons to the changing culture of it, because I really do like the learning experience to be more of a dialogue and a mutual process. But again, showing my age, I mean, I grew up with the theory of, when I went to school, the professor was authority, and I talked to them in a very respectful way. Even if I was sick, I asked for permission to not come to class because I was sick. I didn't ever tell my instructor that I wasn't going to be there, or that I needed them to give me a makeup assignment or change the quiz date for me. I never told them. I hear a lot of being told things now instead of being asked. And I even hear those words that you said, Susan, in feedback. I am paying for this, or paying you not to have to do 5 readings with perusal. I am not paying to have this done. So that is not just in the online world.
Shocking, isn't it?
But yeah, this generation of students, they are more informed. They have access to information like they've never had before, right? And so I think part of what we're talking about is related to that, right? They do look at they do display consumerism behavior, because they're like, hey, I'm paying top dollar. We felt different when tuition was significantly different. So yeah, Rachel, thanks for sharing. I appreciate this discussion.
Yeah, I just don't see the shift to consumerism as a net negative. I think,
Sure.
yeah, they are more informed. I think it challenges us to be more learner centered and
Mm.
to make them aware of what it is they are paying for. They're paying for the education and the experience, not the work. The work is part of the experience. They're not paying for a piece of paper, and we know that education is a societal good. A more educated society is a better society. So I think I see it as a positive, because we're forced to be more learner centered and treat them as humans, not authoritative. We are authorities, but not an authoritative figure. It's a give and take. It's a relationship that we can build of trust that we're learning together. It's not just a one-way street where they're asking us permission to go to the bathroom or something like that.
Absolutely. I was going to say, not that it's all bad, because we get some feedback that probably in the 80s I would have never given my instructor, but maybe they needed to hear.
Anybody else? This has been some really interesting discussion.
Alan, did you have your hand up?
I'm from back in the 70s. And I would just say, I think that the behavior and the actions of my children and grandchildren who are now college age calls upon the professor to display their expertise more routinely, such that the student can aspire to do what they can't. And if that's telling a good story, if that's talking about an experience that the student would never have yet had the opportunity for, or as a clinician showing the students tools and techniques that the student absolutely has to have, though they have not yet learned, I think those can be very good ways to prove, without telling the student, that the professor is the professor and the student is the student. I hear Dr. Parent-Buck and her frustration, and if frustration it is, or concern, and I just believe we're at a different point in time, just in the evolution of humankind, really. Those are my thoughts. Crickets.
No,
That's tough. That's laughable. It's so
that was like
for sure.
mic
Yeah.
drop.
Yeah.
I was thinking about some of the things that you all have said, and if I can deviate from my script just a little bit, I want to show you a tool that I use to engage my students at the beginning of the term that has helped me set the stage to better interaction with them. So I'm going to stop sharing this for a minute. And if I can find the button again, I'm going to share it over here. And some of you have heard me talk about this before. And I'm looking over here because it's on this screen. This is a tool that Michelle Pacansky-Brock started. It's called a liquid syllabus. And it's basically, this is a Google site. And I created it for the students just in this course. I send them the link at the beginning of the term, actually before the term starts. And it's very conversational. I have a video where I talk to them. It's only a minute and a half. And then one of the best things that has come out of this is the advice page. So previous students, I asked them at the end of the term, if you could give advice to other students coming into this course, what would you tell them? And here they are, read ahead. If you're serious about writing accurately in APA, this will teach you. If you don't read the learning materials and the instructor feedback, you won't do well. I had to do some editing for a group project, and now I feel very confident. And this is my favorite. One of my students even created a video for me where she's like, listen, do what she tells you. It's ugly. It's horrible while you're going through it, but it makes a difference at the end. That's my synopsis of it. But I am more than happy to share this with anybody. Just reach out to me and I will share it with you. I give you editing rights. Just don't change it on me, please. Because I give you editing rights so you can create your own. You can make a copy of it directly from there. So anybody else have some things they want to talk about? Otherwise, we've covered course and teaching evaluations in these 3 sessions. We have addressed student evaluations, a quality metric to evaluate your course design, resources available to help you. Do you have any other questions? Any other things that we can help you with? I mean, the TLC folks are just the best at wanting to help you be the best teacher you can be. And that's my email at the corner if you want that liquid syllabus. And there's already an email. One of you is on the ball.
It's actually great. I've adapted it for one of my courses.
We may or may not work together.
So if I could ask a follow-up question about the liquid syllabus. So what would you say is the, like, we all know what syllabus, syllabi do and don't do for us. And we know it's always tough to get our students to have it locked in their minds, all the different aspects of it. And our syllabi are getting longer and longer. What would you say you're noticing by taking this approach is having, what is the outcome as a result of it? And what would you say is like one of the top things that you would attribute to that positive or main thing that you're seeing by doing this?
So I think that the main thing that it does is it makes me human. There is a welcome video there where you can hear my voice. You can see my face. I'm not just a name on the screen anymore. You know, it's not a bunch of letters strung together. It's, oh my gosh, she is real. And in that short video, I mean, I try to clearly convey that I do care about you as a student. I want you to succeed. If you get through this course, and it's not going to be fun, it's not an enjoyable course. Nobody enjoys writing, but all those little picky things that we're going to go through are going to help you in your next course, in your big project at the end of the program, in your professional life. And, you know, that's what I want is for you to be successful. And I think that the language in my liquid syllabus is very conversational. Susan can attest to this. You can hear me saying it because you know me, but I wrote just like I talk, minus a few ums and uhs.
I would say too, Sue, to kind of tap into that, one of Michelle Pacansky-Brock's angles with the liquid syllabus is that supportive nature of the liquid syllabus. The whole reason behind doing it separate from just a regular syllabus is it allows you to add that supportive and more inclusive language where you're talking to students in such a way that they understand you are not there at, you know, it may kind of tackle what we were talking about earlier in terms of students giving negative feedback. For me, what I find with the liquid syllabus is from the start, it increases the civility of my relationship with the students. So,
Yes.
And in an online course, that's really important because we're never face to face unless we're on a Zoom call. And so they need to hear from me, you know, things like the grading. If you'll go to the grading, you know, it talks about here's how I grade, but I realize life happens kinds of things. You know, we'll work out a different plan. You can see under assignments there if you let me know ahead of time. So it's the language that doesn't go in a standard syllabus.
Or especially this, the inclusive calendar. If you've got a religious holiday or some type of observance, or even I had a gal contact me the first week of class and say, I have a vacation to Mexico planned. Okay, so let's look at the schedule. Let's see what you can get done ahead of time so that you don't fall behind. And we came up with a plan. And those are the kinds of things that students are more willing to do once they read that I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And Quincy, you had a hand up, I think. Oh, that was an accident.
That was standing ovation.
Oh. Bravo. So, I mean, I can click through anything else you want to see in here. Anybody?
So Malati, you mentioned this book, Relationship Rich Education. you mind sharing a little bit about it, and which are you able to are you implementing any of this from the book that you'd recommend?
To be honest, I just started reading it, and
Okay.
it is fascinating because as Dr. Tabitha said, like when she was a student, and I think I belong to her generation now, because even I had to I had to take permission to be absent from the class or not attend class or something like that. So it was like more of a hierarchy that you follow, like you respect someone and you have to follow their instruction. But this book talks totally different about how you can build that relationship with your student. And I'm beginning to see that because I'm now working with Gen Z students, and it is hard for me because my thought process is so different from the students, the way they think. But I also have a son who is in Gen Z, and so I sometimes compare my students with my son. Um, yeah, I'm getting some tips from this book, and I do have this book in front of me if you want to have a look at that. It's a small, tiny book. It's very short. It's small and tiny, and I can put the author's name too on the chat.
Yeah, please do. And as a member of Gen Z myself, I was, why y'all laughing? Why y'all laughing? I'm hurt right now.
You're just a young pup.
Oh, no one believes this. All right. Yeah, no, let me reconcile something though. I want to reconcile something in front of witnesses. This idea of gen differences and the younger generation, they're different. We did Julie, the rest of the TLC, Aaron, Brenda, Jay, we put a self-paced module on the TLC website. And I do not I don't do that. But my question is some of the things that we are saying here today about the generational differences, our grandparents said about their children's generations, right? Our parents said about us. So where is the line? Like where what is the thing that we take action on? And one of my favorite things in the self-paced module is literally there's headlines cut out, and you're like, you'd swear that was stuff said about millennials, but turns out it was boomers. It was the you know what I mean? So like at what point, what do y'all think about that?
I mean,
But when we work with diverse students, especially like when now the word diversity means something totally different. It wasn't like what it was or used to be. So now we have students coming from so many different life experiences, not necessarily their ethnicity or their socioeconomic status. And some of the students can really relate that with me, especially students who come from Asian background and come from Middle Eastern background. They can relate the kind of journey like a girl child or a girl student has to go through to come to this level. So I think that building that relationship with the students that's where not in the classroom, but outside the classroom. And this happens during my one-on-one advising meetings and mentoring meetings with the students. And this is where they really can we share after our discussion we realize that there are so many things that we share and so many things that are common, and the journey that they are able to relate to my journey. And I think that relationship sometimes, and I said, like, it does take a lot of effort and it takes a lot of time, because I know I spend hours and hours with those advising and mentoring meetings where I am a research advisor and an academic advisor and a clinical advisor. But a lot of time I spend those meetings talking about things other than the research or the clinical or the academic, talking about life skills, talking about how they can organize things, how to prioritize what they want to learn, or how to take, and also how to take ownership for that. I know that they have paid and they've come here and they're expecting some things, but at the same time, I also encourage them to take ownership for all of that learning, because I cannot read for them. I cannot comprehend the information for them. There also has to be some attempt from the student so it's a two-way thing. Like we have to meet somewhere in between for them to be successful.
Sure. Yeah, well stated. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think that, connecting some dots here, Sue, it seems like you're empowering them to do that in part is to take ownership of their learning experience. I know this is something that TLC takes great pride in. Yeah, Sue, comments.
Yeah, I was just going to say too that it kind of goes back to what Sue said earlier, and I think it was a quote from you as well, Quincy, that if we want our students to be lifelong learners, we definitely need to mirror that ourselves. And so I learn a lot from my students. I'm Gen X, so so for me, we're flexible like that. We've been around, my undergrad was all done through typewriter, and yeah. Thank goodness my doctorate wasn't, and I didn't have to go for card catalogs in the library to find my resources. But, I think we can learn a lot from the younger generation. And I hear my grandparents come out of my mouth once in a while when I'm like, these kids today. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I sound like my grandparents. And so I really try to understand and stay young, stay current on what's going on with them. And that helps me learn as well from them.
Having a 22-year-old daughter helps too.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, Dawn, just so you know, she graduated college.
That just makes me feel old.
Me too.
I give a counter argument here. I know there's a difference in generations, and like you said, everybody thinks it's different. But I can just tell you that I read a lot of comments people make about other people, surveys, evaluations, and they're pretty brutal. And it's not about the younger generation. It's people, because they have anonymity, that they think that they can vent. So it's really it's people in general that I think the anonymity, the electronics and stuff is really what's allowing people to feel empowered, because they can hide and say what they want to say and couch the things they say in a way that you can't recognize them. If they give a specific example, you know who they are, right? But if they say she never listens, or he never listens when we give suggestions, or I don't like the way they talk. They're pretty brutal. Getting an evaluation from students or from employees, it does take a lot to want to read it, because people, and it can just be one person, but when they're answering 10 questions and they're brutal 10 times, it seems like it's a lot of people that are unhappy with you. So I don't know that it's really generational. There's a difference in generations, but it's people in general.
I've heard people say it's a world of cyberbullying now because of that anonymity.
Yeah, it's a great point, Don. I see a lot of Gen Xers out there being trolls as well. So they can hide behind the technology, whereas perhaps in the past they couldn't.
I'm not even sure they need to hide. I watched an altercation on Facebook between a former teacher and a classmate of mine. That teacher's in her 80s, and she was trolling this young man. I said young man, he's 60. But a former student, and I'm shocked. I'm shocked at the bad behavior by a lot of people anymore.
And I think, coming back to our earlier point, I think sometimes, so I'm never excusing discriminatory, harsh language. I think what can be helpful, and I say that you heard the hesitation in my voice, is trying to think about, where is this person coming from? Where is this stemming from, right? And I'm sure, as people who've been, maybe you've submitted for peer review, maybe you've been in a scientific conference or an academic conference, and the way that people can really be harsh to each other in the way they're asking their questions, or giving feedback is really a loose way of describing that, right? And so I think sometimes that's coming from a place of insecurity. I need to prove to everyone here that I have a good point, or that I'm the smartest person in the room, or whatever. And where is that coming from? It's coming from personal anxiety, right? It's coming from stress. It's coming from fear. Maybe they're worried about their grant. They're worried about their career, or their article that's in peer review that just got shot down by someone else who was trying to prove their point. So I think what I guess I'm trying to offer is thinking about this a little bit from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? When we don't feel safe, we can't then give good feedback. We can't then show up in good ways. If I'm not feeling safe, I don't know that Sue is going to be okay with me expressing my concern about meeting a deadline or whatever that is. So that does not excuse the behavior in the least, but I think sometimes when we can kind of roll it back and like, where is this coming from? And then I think, Tabitha, you offered that idea of the pearl. Where's the pearl in that really harsh thing? I shared this in our discussion board or our perusal activity in the Course Design Institute this morning. But something that really helped me in my own dissertation work was, sitting in front of my committee, it could feel like everything felt like an attack sometimes, right? Oh, they're criticizing this part of my study, or wow, that was a really difficult question. And when it helped me, it took a couple meetings, but it helped me to reframe that of they're here because they're investing in me and my work. And when I could reframe it that way in my head, it didn't make the question less scary or the presentation less scary, but it did allow me to sort of see, where is this question coming from and how are they actually maybe asking me to think about something that's going to help me? Now, that's not perfect. It doesn't apply to everything. But sometimes okay, that was harsh, but if I can reframe that, how can I reshape that? How can I open my own mind to see where is this coming from? And again, I'm not excusing discriminatory language or non-constructive behaviors, but that sometimes helps me let me take that step back. And it can help me find the pearl that I like that framework that we heard earlier of how can I find the constructive thing in a non-constructive thing, but it does not excuse discriminatory behavior in the least. And I really want to be cautious about saying that.
Good advice. We have 3 minutes left.
I was
Anybody
going to
else?
say, you thought you were going to have a short presentation, and we
It was.
all the time.
It was, and you guys helped fill it. Thanks so much. Love you all.
I have a question. And I know I missed a few minutes at the beginning, and also I missed the prior sessions, but our students just get one opportunity to give the feedback, which is at the end during the SRTs. And I know like there was some discussion about doing some mid-course evaluation. Are there any resources available right now that students can give the feedback so that it's not like at the end of the course, like they are then giving all these negative, non-constructive feedback? I'm sorry if this was already answered, but I missed the first few minutes of today's presentation.
I say we do this all over again. We do all three from the top. No, so yeah, appreciate the question. And in a nutshell here, resources, there is a link in the chat. I'll grab it for you and I'll make sure you get it. So you have that. But all in all, most of what we shared is conceptual in the sense that starts with creating a culture of evaluation and two-way communication, these type of things. We talked about caring. Your book, I think, is a pillar of that. Get feedback early. Midterm is one way to do it, right? Ask them what's working, what's not working, those type of things. And then some you're familiar with from the TLC courses, Muddiest Point, exit tickets, these type of things. And then one of my favorite things that came up here today is then when you do collect the feedback, especially at the midterm or early in your semester, always try to re-communicate back to them. Let them know that what they have offered has been heard. Some of these things can't be addressed. Try to as best as possible. Maybe that's its own session we need to talk about. How do you handle the feedback? How do you make it actionable? How do you help them feel heard when they do offer it? I think that's a big thing I struggle with mightily, right? Hey, Canvas is terrible. I wish I could fix that for you. I can't. But these are things I can do, and this is where I can help you feel heard. And then, don't wait till course evals only. It's probably the least actionable, because now you're getting it's just a complaint box in the back of the grocery store at that point, if without context. So yeah, I'll be sure to get you these resources, presentations, if you have time to take a look at them. And then we have the QM framework too. We have access to that. We'll make sure you get that as well. So appreciate your question.
And maybe separating the questions. What's a piece of feedback you have about this course? And then what's a piece of feedback you have that you would like me to bring back to the department? Is it that this room is not conducive to your learning? Is it that this is a 8 a.m. and you don't like 8 a.m.s? Helping them see that, okay, I can't do anything about this, but I appreciate you telling me, separate from what's the information about the course that I can actually do something about.
And Marissa just put some really great questions in the chat. 4 questions that you can ask. Awesome. Thanks everybody for being here today. This was fun. I have really enjoyed all 3 of these sessions, and thank you to all of you who've been at all 3 and anybody who's just made the one. I appreciate it all.